All right, we are on the air. Council work session for September 2nd, and the bulk of our agenda for this meeting is an update on our council affordability goals. So I will turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So this goal, most of our goals, have one or two staff liaisons. This one, you get the full meal deal. You get Public Works Director Peter Passarelli, Assistant City Manager Joseph Brilio, and Finance Director Michael Osborne. Annie Bird, our Development Project Manager, also provides a ton of support on the housing-related items here. Michael is out celebrating, I believe it's 20th anniversary. So he's in better places than we are. But we are here to give kind of an update. You've now been through several of these, so you'll remember we usually start with the staff recap. So what have we accomplished over the past quarter, and then a look ahead. And then we will turn it over to the the council goal lead, who is Councilor Khosrowbadi. And he will talk about, on the council side, accomplishments in the last quarter and the path forward.
Hello. We just started. We just missed the intro.
Oh, man. I'm sure you could.
Who are these people?
I love the shirt. It's a good design this year. It really, really was.
I mean, other years have also been great. Yeah. This one really,
it rocked hard.
Mm-hmm.
So looking back at our accomplishments, we're going to actually cover a couple quarters here because this is our third goal. We're kind of at the end of a quarter. But looking at Q2, what did we accomplish? So on the utility side, and I'll kind of speak to utility actions. Joseph will speak to housing action. Peter will correct everything I say working correctly on the utility side. How does that sound? So on the utility side, just again, refreshing your memory, we talked about solid waste rates and updated those in June. There is another solid waste discussion coming up this fall. That's going to be more about the future of the franchise agreement. If you remember, we have to start a 10-year clock if we want to end that, and we need to do that before the end of the year. So that's coming up soon. It's on the forecaster. We also reviewed and updated our fee schedule a couple times now as part of our financial stability strategy, and we'll continue to do that based on the rate study work that Peter can share more about and that you've heard about at previous budget committee meetings. And that's kind of the last one you see up there. Peter, under the leadership of Peter, we've begun work with a consultant on utility cost of service rate design for water and wastewater. That's in process. That's a very iterative process of sharing data, sharing sometimes expected, sometimes unexpected things that come up on the capital side, so they can kind of help us forecast that. And also taking into account the feedback you all gave about affordability at our budget committee, which we'll summarize later in the presentation. Peter, anything you want to say there?
I would say one of the things that has, I'll use the word delayed, like the recommendations is related to capital on the water side specifically. And, as we've gone through the evaluation, the assumptions that the rate consultant made didn't incorporate some of the funding scenarios that we might be able to use for our PFAS work that we're doing. And there's sort of two buckets of funding available from the state that we're looking at right now. I think I mentioned it to the Safe Drinking Water Revolving Loan, which is a low interest loan and has a low interest component. And there's two sort of buckets of that loan. One is Safe Drinking Water Revolving Loan component, and then one is related to emerging contaminants. So the PFAS one, we have to complete a feasibility study. My understanding, we had a call 2 weeks ago with them, with the Oregon business Oregon, who managed that program for OHA. And they said we're eligible for the vanilla one, I'll call it the Safe Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund, $6 million, with about $3 million of it being forgivable, and we'll be eligible for a low interest rate. So maybe as low as like 1%. And then the other piece, we have to wait to complete our feasibility study, which we're working on with a consultant. And it looks like there's about $6 million there available. But that can only be used for like the very narrow treatment focused work. That, I believe, comes with what they communicated to us was like all of the principal can be forgiven. And at a low interest rate. So we've got to work with a consultant now to put that sort of package into the rate study that we're looking at. And this is work that we're going to be doing over the next 3 to 4 years. So that's sort of what's complicated that piece there.
When they say, a bunch of it can be forgiven, is that once it's built and they see that you've done what you said you were going to do, then they decide to forgive it? Or
You don't, well, I think once the application is approved, so we're in the application. In the first one, we're going to work on it. Submit the principal is forgiven once construction is done. You don't pay until you're done with the work. You just pay the interest piece on the principal.
And I'm sorry, the funding, is it general fund that's allocated by the governor under Business Oregon?
It's safe drinking water funding that comes from the federal government. They're still funding, and they have funds available.
How long has that program been in place? Is it something that we anticipate will weather the storms of the federal government?
I think so, yeah. But I mean, that program's been in place for years.
Not under attack this week.
That's hard to predict, but.
And just so it's clear, this is a different fund and different concept than we discussed the other week about Milwaukie.
There's the safe drinking water, and then there's the clean water revolving loan fund. Different.
And then on the wastewater side, that's the other piece that we're incorporating in that study as well.
Okay. And then this is Q2, so this is back April to June. Joseph, you want to say briefly?
Yeah, so the action here was to draft affordable housing code during those months, which is obviously done. Council has looked and reviewed and voted on that package as 2 weeks ago. It's going back to you again for the second reading.
Okay, and so then we're in Q3, we're kind of at the tail end of Q3. What we've done on the utility side, just a couple things to kind of know are coming up. We've scheduled our annual update with Wes. So Greg Geist with Wes will be here on October 21st to answer all your Wesy questions. We also are working to schedule a presentation with PGE's executive team. There's a new government affairs rep at PGE who I've been very impressed with. She's very proactive and very eager to get the exec leadership in front of council. So we're working to schedule that targeting November. And then a couple things in motion. Peter talked about this, but continue that work on the cost of service study and the rate design work. So we'll a real big update on that will be in November at the QUAC and BC meetings. I do think, Peter, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, at next week's CIP update, we were going to try to give a little flavor of some of the wastewater pieces related to that sewer project. Is that right?
Yes, I think you're right, but I don't think that baby is.
Oh, that's okay. Okay.
So does that follow up in November, does that mean it's complete, the study's complete, or is that just an interim report?
Well, it will be their draft recommendations at that time. And then, if there are questions or things that we want, it won't be, it actually won't be the rate design, it will be the recommended rate increase. So, and you can make adjustments to different components of the rates that we have. That's in the needs. So it's more like how much additional revenue is needed.
And just kind of to the dominoes that fall between now and budget adoption. We've got November where we kind of debut and discuss CIP and this rate study. You've got February where we bring you the final draft CIP and really look for your approval, because then we're bringing it back to you in April and May to vote on. It's really all, it's kind of fun. And the rates connect to the CIP and the budget's all proposed.
I think in the way that we've handled it, I think in the past is in those meetings, we've said like, we're going to need just use an example, 2.5% increase on water in terms of total revenues. But then when we come back with the rate design, it doesn't necessarily mean that's 2.5% across all the different customer classes. Because we've found over time that different customer classifications are maybe over-subsidized or under-subsidized, so we make adjustments to the fixed customer charges and consumption rate.
Couple other things to get on your horizon. I'm really looking forward to next Tuesday's study session. So half of that will be CIP update, and a little bit of CIP looking forward to follow up on some of these wastewater questions from the last time we met. But we're also going to do kind of a utility billing 101 and introduce you to our fantastic utility billing technician, Amy Francis. Amy is the person who takes the call, the desk meeting, the emails from anyone with utility billing questions, and she is just phenomenal. And I think it will be a really helpful overview of just her day-to-day flow. You hear us say a lot, like, we could definitely consider that, though, will be an administrative component. And I think talking to Amy will help kind of illuminate what that really means, what that looks like behind the scenes. And frankly, she'll have insights that we probably don't on what are the questions people are asking, what are the external resources of utility relief that she points people to that seem great and which ones are not that helpful. So looking forward to that. That's on September 9th. Then the following meeting, the work session on September 16th, Peter and Michael will be back. We've got some code cleanup we need to do around our utility billing code. It's a very prescriptive code in terms of the day of the week bills go out and just some things that frankly I think are hindering rather than helping the city. So just a little bit of cleanup that we're going to be previewing for you there. And then, and Amy will talk more about this next week too, but you know, we have 6,000, 7,000 utility billing customers in the city, and she has been doing yeoman's work to really audit those accounts, make sure all the classifications are accurate, their characteristics are right. And you've heard us talk to, as we roll out the public safety fee, both the advantages and the disadvantages of some of our methodologies. So like safe using trips. You know, you can set that rate once, but then who's auditing it to make sure that's still the right number down the road. So we'll talk about that, and we're continuing that work behind the scenes to make sure our utility billing system is as accurate and efficient as possible. Okay, Joseph, talk to us about Sparrow.
Yeah, thank you for your patience here. This took a little bit longer. We were supposed to have it launched, at least the RFP, in June. I wanted to. But there was some issues with the lot description on the deed, some title work that needed to get cleaned up, as well as a replat of the property. So it's more administrative stuff, but still things that require surveyor and engineering and county recordation. So that took a little bit longer than we'd like. But good news is that we launched the RFP just last month, August 15th. We did have a neighborhood meeting last week. Only one person showed up, but
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
But it was the right person, I would say. It's the person that's representing the ADA on the evaluation selection committee. So it's actually,
Oh, I just,
Ashley.
but she lives in one of those
Yeah,
houses
I know who you're talking-
right there.
I know who you're talking about. Wow.
Yeah, so this, I just saw on the screen, if you want to get a sense of what the schedule is. You see, by the end of the year, we'll hopefully be back in front of council with the developer that we're going to ask you for approval to go into the negotiations.
So, I mean, it's early days. It's only been 2 weeks and there's been a holiday, but I mean, do you sense a lot of interest?
I can't get a
None.
sense of like a
Okay.
lot, but I will say that, yes, so far there's been more interest than I thought. There's a few developers that have reached out and said, yeah, we're definitely going to submit something. So good news is I think we're definitely going to have something to look at. And we'll have a better sense, forget what the date is for the
Next Tuesday.
next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, we have a requirement for mandatory site visit with any interested applicants. So after Tuesday, we'll know for sure. It's part of, if you're going to apply, then you have to show up. So give a sense of serious interest next week.
Can you clarify, why do you think we're seeing more interest than you expected? Or I guess, why did you not think we'd see much interest in what you think?
I think I'm just a little bit of a pessimist, maybe. Sure. And I think a lot of people are cheerleaders until the rubber meets the road, and then it's like you got to put the application together, some thought and conceptuals together. So seeing folks actually put the work in, which requires, is interesting. That's all I think. I was just hedging that that's true.
So if somebody doesn't see it until after Tuesday, they're out of luck.
Yes.
Okay. That seems, okay.
It's aggressive. It is typical.
Is it typical?
Yeah, you want
Okay.
folks to actually participate, you want them to show up, ask questions, be a part of the process.
What if they show up on like video, something they haven't represented?
Yeah. Technically, I think maybe they make it, I don't know.
Do all of them show up at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah, interesting.
It's like showing a house and everyone shows up at the same time.
Shark feeding.
Get a sense of who your competition is.
Given the low turnout at the walkthrough, and I know there were one counselor who wanted to be there and couldn't, do we think we could do like another Island Station NDA meeting or some other kind of neighborhood outreach?
That might be better than the walkthrough. More people would be there.
Of course, it was also hot.
Yeah.
It's not a great week to do outside stuff.
I do think it's more helpful to show up when you have RFPs or when you have tangibles. I was talking to some folks at Island Station at a fun painting event. And we were talking about this project. It's one thing to talk about it in the abstract, but to see these RFPs, I think that will be
Yes. Yeah, and Andy created a great one pager. If anyone's interested, that's what we were intending to hold out. But to your point, Council President, is to have something at least to look at. Even better if we were going to look at it and then walk the site so they get a sense of the constraints. But most of the NDA knows.
Well, and then part of that is also, addressing or looking to address some of the infrastructure issues that they brought up
Yeah.
in conjunction with the project to help.
We were hoping to get some feedback on even the things that we don't see, that don't know about. But
NDA might be better.
I will say the NDA meetings, tend to be pretty small, but on the 20th this month, they have the picnic, which is the place to hit a lot of people. It is a Saturday, so I get it if you guys don't want to work a Saturday, but at least maybe get a stack of those one pagers. Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be there for part of it too. It's a block from my house, so it's kind of.
any other questions about the schedule or? Yeah.
Just, I might have missed this, but between the release of the RFP and when the proposals are due, are you offering a bidders conference? Like for folks to come together after they've had a chance to read the RFP and ask questions, or are you just soliciting those via email?
Yes, so we're hoping that next week, the on-site member meeting is essentially that.
Okay.
Everybody there, so we hear their questions together. If anyone does have any questions right now, they have to submit through our bonfire RFP program so that everyone else gets to see the same questions they're asked and also see our responses back.
And so you have to register through that to be able to see the questions and responses?
Yes.
Is there a way for the public to register through that, or is there a way for us to post the questions and the responses publicly?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Do you know that? Can you see answers if you're not registering?
You have to be registered.
Some question, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Just thought it might be interesting for folks who are watching the process and who live close by or are invested in that space.
I can check with our procurement team on if that's a setting we can enable.
That's good.
It's good.
That's really good. That's fantastic.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay, so what's coming up on the staff side? So one thing you'll see in this action plan, which was appended to the packet, there's a lot crammed into this goal. So we tried to separate things out that are actions that are sort of general affordability, utility actions, and housing actions. So if you see those headers, I hope that helps organize the unwieldy action plan a little bit more. Something that's going to, I think, help generally, yes, for this goal, but frankly, for all of our goals, we are still planning to conduct the biannual community survey this fall, maybe early winter, but Joseph and I will lead that and just kind of bring your brain back when we were talking about solid waste rates. One of the things that came up was, could we actually get some baseline data about who knows that they can compost? Who knows about bulky waste, because those have a rate impact, and knowing actual utilization and awareness is going to be really important. So we'll share more updates coming soon on the survey.
I suspect those will be two very different numbers.
I bet.
But, I mean, I think most everybody knows about bulky waste.
Sure.
And the composting, maybe not so
Yeah.
much.
And then on the utility side, what we're going to work on over this next quarter. So we had to reschedule the QUAC meeting it didn't happen in August, September 15th. As a kind of a follow-up from the great discussion we had at the budget committee meeting, we're going to pin down kind of a short list of some rebate or discount or exemption ideas that have been floated around, things like a tree bait, things like an increase to the low water usage rebate or a high water usage surcharge, something like that. And create that short list of ideas so that we can do kind of a cost benefit analysis and share that with you in the November QUAC and BC meetings, because that's all connected to that, getting a little closer to setting new rates in the next budget. We're updating our stormwater impervious surface area data. So this, again, you'll learn a lot more from Amy next week, kind of behind the curtain, but we have the updated impervious surface data. We have to put that into the utility billing system so that our customers are being charged accurately for the impervious surface that they have. And then we've currently scheduled 2 work sessions on these proposed code changes for utility billing efficiency. We may not need it. If after the 16th of September, you guys feel good to go, we can change that to a vote, but there is a work session on November 18th to continue that discussion. Peter, anything you want to add?
No, that's good. No.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
For the charges for impervious surface, is that something that will impact residential or commercial or both?
Commercial and multifamily.
Okay.
So our single-family residential and our flat fee. So that's an equivalent surface area unit. I think it's 2,706 square feet of impervious surface area. And then all of the other multifamily and commercial properties are based off of that. So depending on how much impervious area they have.
It comes to mind for me as maybe an intersection with the ECDEV priority area, because there are commercial tenants who pay utility on behalf of the landlord for their properties, but don't have the ability to modify their impervious surface.
Interesting.
So it might be something that we could collaborate on.
I think it should be something that we collaborate on. Absolutely, yeah. I did not know that.
Love it. Okay. And then Joseph, you want to preview what's coming up on housing?
Yes. What's not here is, as I mentioned earlier, is the adoption of the affordable housing incentive code, which is conduct work session to discuss increased high density housing capacity as part of the housing production strategy. That's set for work session on October 21st to help scope that, what the council wants that to be, what they want it to include. So prepare your items then. Laura and Euro will be here to help discuss that. The second one is conduct work session to discuss the land banking strategy. That's on November 18th. So I'll be coming to that meeting with some ideas of what that should look like and could look like for council, and obviously always also be open to whatever recommendations you all have. And then there's a few of you that have some, are excited about that topic specifically. That also includes all the city properties, so that Harrison Lane. And then hopefully at the end of that quarter, we'll be adopting, or at least selecting an affordable housing developer for be a pretty big quarter actually. For all of us.
And, I mean, it's not, well, there's a little bit of affordable. Our session with Dr. Belluri is October.
October 7th.
October 7th.
It fits right into it.
Yeah, it's good to have that before, before some of this, so, yeah.
And then, do you know if we have a follow-up conversation with Metro about their hopes around a sustainability strategy in the industrial area?
That's a great question. I don't believe we do have anything on an agenda, but I could reach out and get something scheduled.
It might be helpful. I don't know if others feel like that would be helpful, but when they were here, they were talking about, you know, their interest in putting together
Reuse mall?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Like a reuse mall, or, you know, I want to say like, it's like a step before a transfer station, really.
Yeah, like a recycling depot.
Yeah, and as we're talking about bulky waste day, and we're talking about composting and things like that, I was dropping some things off and picking some more things up at the high school rummage sale this weekend.
Oh, cool.
So it was the rummage sale benefited the theater program and the arts program at MA. And they're able to collect donations, like really as soon as school ends, all the way up until when they do the rummage sale, which I thought, you know, that's a really great opportunity, and people might not know, like maybe, you know, they could align that with their prep for bulky waste day or a reuse mall if that's in the future. So maybe, I don't know, I know we only have unlimited, amazing staff.
You know it. Endless
But-
capacity.
It's something that just kind of, I don't know, stays on my mind about that conversation with Metro, and if that's
Well,
on the
and
horizon.
Metro does have openings right now on there. We all got an email from them about, they have openings on their waste management committee, whatever. So some of you have expressed an interest in that in the past, so.
Yeah, I was interested also in some monthly meetings.
I was interested in doing second meeting.
Well, I'm doing like, what are we going to talk about every month? You know?
You did
I should probably wait that one.
Well, we can talk about that in the next section.
Yeah.
We did that, account strategies. Well, we could talk about this a little more. So October 7th is our next solid waste franchise discussion. You know the franchisees will be here. We could see if Metro's available then to kind of just give a quick update, or at least something in the packet about their.
There's something in the packet.
Yeah,
That would be really
that'd be great.
Great.
And I don't think a conversation would be much, you know, it's another study session.
Wonderful. I will reach out.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, now I hand it over to Councilor Koster-Abadi to run through the council side of things.
Ready, thank you. And I just appreciate staff, all the work you guys have done so far. It's I know it's a heavy lift, especially with the times that we're in. We're fighting some pressure right now, but I appreciate everyone hanging in there and fighting back, not bending the knee, so to speak. So first off, some of the Q2 council accomplishments. General actions, we completed our goal action plan. We aligned the city's action plan with the CAB strategic plan, which is nice. And then updates on, we had updates on committee assignment work related to affordability, which I know not all of us may have a committee assignment that's related to that, but I know that there is some overlap in some of the committees that we do have. April through June, we selected and appointed a new budget/community utility advisory committee. So we got a quack, we got members to fill that, and we filled the vacancies on the budget committee as well. Adopted the fee schedule, advocated with Metro, we're just talking about that as well. Regional Waste Advisory Committee for the solid waste rates, design transparency, Councilor Massey, thank you. And then obviously advocating with Wes for wastewater treatment rate design transparency. That one as well. That's also in conjunction with what Wes is working on in terms of expanding their low-income discounts and trying to figure out how to get more people not only enrolled in the program, but how to get that over to renters. And we talked about that where they are going to have a meeting with PGE to see if they can put that discount on the electric bill for renters.
Has Wes completed its rate setting? No.
It's this month, I think, or November. I think it might be this month or next month, actually. I have an email on that.
We get something like every April, and
Yeah, it's like an update.
2028, our wastewater treatment rates are going to be flat.
Yep.
Because just some, if I remember correctly, there's bonds that have gone away that were Milwaukie was impacted by. So even though there's increases to other customers, ours are flat through 2028.
So the debt servicing,
Yeah.
that's like the term that I always hear. And then housing actions, we held a study session on affordable housing models, just to better understand opportunities and constraints. Quarter three, council plans, which are now, and I know this quarter is a little bit tricky. Like, for example, I know with one of my committee assignments, the cab, like we were like off on the summer. So a lot of, I know some of that stuff gets pushed back. We're gonna have our first meeting in 2 months, tomorrow, Wednesday or Thursday. So it's tomorrow, actually. General actions, share updates on the committee assignment work related to affordability. Speaking of that, what I did, for an update real quick, I did meet myself and Tracy Carroll, who is the new Director of Social Services for the county. We did have a meeting with Congresswoman Dexter's office. Tom Crawford from her office actually reached out and asked for a meeting because they're trying to put together some financial policies. So we were able to meet with them for about 45 minutes last week, actually, or the week before, I should say. And it was great just to discuss some of the issues that are facing not just Milwaukie, but our county as well, and what the federal government can do, what they shouldn't do also, in order to help alleviate those issues. So we are planning on having continued conversations with our office, Congresswoman Bynum, if you're listening. Utility actions, discuss council's affordability priorities and principles. We did that at the last budget committee meeting.
On our next slide, we kind of have a recap of what that was. I want to make sure we got it right, but we'll come back to that. Keep going.
Obviously, the general rebate discount exemption ideas, we are still working on that. We do have some ideas already in place that we've tossed around and that have been talked about, but I think it's become a lot more put to paper. I think we're starting to get ready to crystallize exactly what those programs are going to be. Not necessarily how we're going to do that, because we still have a long way to go for that, but exactly what we're trying to implement. Housing actions, there was a walking meeting with the one neighbor. So thank you for that, staff. Hopefully we'll get more out of the NDA meeting that we scheduled. We did vote for the Affordable Housing Code incentives last council meeting. We are going to hopefully pass that tonight. And then hold the work session also on tenant screening fee limits, which is happening as soon as I get done talking. 2 more slides after this one. Yeah, just recapping as the city manager Sagor said, from the budget committee meeting, I thought that was a great meeting. I thought there was a lot of good discussion in that meeting. And I think that we're blessed where our, not just our values as council members and staff, but the values of our community are when it comes to affordability and what they'd like to see. One of the big things was not restricting, that the discounts or whatever we do to help out into the affordability goal shouldn't just be restricted to greatest need. It should be able to be afforded to all customers as well. Especially that, you know, the middle-class families in Milwaukee who have been battered the most recently. The city should work to expand enrollment in existing utility assistance programs before looking to deepen utility relief discounts. We heard that as well, because we do have a low number of people enrolled in our current discount programs, and trying to figure out why. If it happens to be a barrier with what we're calling it, then maybe we need to change it to something else other than low income. Maybe we should think about changing the name to financially constrained. Whatever those barriers are, you know, we need to find out what those are and work on expanding and getting more people enrolled in that. And then what the strategies that were agreed on, again, review and potentially set maximums for reserves. I was talking about our water funds, you know, hitting a certain amount and not just having an increased amount sitting there for 7+ years until a project we like comes along. And I know that's not necessarily what we're doing. I know a lot of it has to do with waiting on ODOT or waiting on, you know, Union Pacific and the railroad stuff, but still there should be a maximum so our ratepayers get some relief as well. Again, realistic capital budgeting plan, that should be a big one. Cutting down on some of the projects that may be a little bit out of scope right now in terms of what we're capable of, and really starting to deliver on some of those longer delayed projects that the community has been waiting for. Expand incentives, disincentives based on consumption behavior. That's the water, you know, preserving discount, I guess you would call it, something like that, conservation discount, where if you were to come under a certain unit of water, you can have a portion of your bill waived. And then also, again, the tree bay program and those things that are hopefully later down the line. But these are things that I feel that are something in our purview that doesn't rely on us creating a whole bunch of new things, that we can just take the structure and foundation that we have now and expand on it and hopefully increase our reach as well.
What strategies BC?
Budget committee?
Yeah.
Sorry, budget strategies, the budget committee.
Okay, I thought that was like the name of an organization.
It's a board press.
That's our consultant.
That's bureaucrat bad behavior. We should not use acronyms.
Did I see something in the packet or somewhere that there's a survey going out trying to get at why people are not using the low income? Did I get,
I think
read
we
that there
did
was
talk
something
about
in the utility bill or something? No?
I'm not recalling that. I know what was one of the things we wanted to ask for the community survey was, are you aware of the city's low-income utility assistance program? But maybe Amy and Michael talked to you about something?
No, we did. That was a conversation. I feel like that was a conversation here. About including something in the utility.
I thought,
That'd be great. It's a question, either a question or news. You have to go back to Michael and Amy, but I feel like that might have also been the conversations that Amy has. She's actually supposed to ask them over the phone. I recall something.
On that note, I mean, I would really encourage you all, and you'll obviously get the packet with the staff report, but think ahead. I mean, ask all the questions you want next week when Amy's here, about, what are those conversations like? What's the feedback you hear? And also if from her perspective, if we were to make a slightly more complicated a tiered water use discount or surcharge program, what does she think about that? We'll make sure she's prepped and we'll go over there to back her up, but I think that she'll be really a great resource to ask a bunch of questions to next week.
Yeah, I think what I'm remembering kind of related to that, and it might be not what you were thinking actually there. So let me just say real quick. I believe we were going to have Amy asking when someone is going to be leaving the city or moving their service, asking them more about affordability. Why are you leaving? Why are you disconnecting? Those kind of questions to see if there's a affordability component, if they're making moves based on it's too expensive here.
well, I mean, we keep seeing these statistics about 40% of, about the percentage that are under the ALICE or the percentage that are rent burdened. And it's not matching up with the number of people who are applying for these programs. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually one thing we mentioned to Representative Dexter was pushing Congress to update the damn.
The poverty guidelines.
Right,
Yeah.
I mean, come on, right? Like we talked about Alice and we explained what that is and how that factors in and how that's a lot more realistic as to what people are facing right now as opposed to what they've done God knows how many years ago. So, yeah.
You know, one of the other things that I think that happened in the bill, what are the great, I mean, bill,
Thanks, Peter.
They, I think, or maybe before that bill, they laid off all the people in, what is the Health and Human Services or HUD that managed the lighting program, the low income. Sorry.
program that we use,
Talked
that's
about that
used for
too.
electrical, for electric bill.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, Tracy Garrell, the director, she mentioned that to them too and talked extensively about that and how important that is. So yeah, hopefully, well, we'll see.
Clarify here, if you go back to our agreements, the BC, the last bullet point, I thought it was a little bit more broad than just consumption behavior. I think it was, like, I don't think that tree bait would fall under consumption behavior. That is just behavior flat out. And I think we were talking about incentives more broadly.
Yeah, tree bait, I just mentioned tree bait as just another incentive program.
Yeah.
That has to do with consumption, but yeah, this one is specific to
Yeah. That's, I guess, why I asked, should we strike the word consumption? Is that staff's understanding now?
That's a help. I think I was kind of thinking of tree bait as a way to reduce your consumption of stormwater. So, but I take your point. I think it's broader. I think the ones that we really heard you on is water use. So low water use and high water use. That'd be an incentive and a disincentive, a discount and a surcharge. Tree bait.
and then the cap.
And I think so really it's kind of those two pieces. Because I think what we did, this is the second bullet up there. We heard that at this stage, you're not looking, it is a higher priority for us to try to increase subscription to the utility assistance rather than to deepen the discounts or tier the discounts. We can look at that further down the road once we feel like we have reached the people we need to reach.
Right. Well, and I think too, with what we offer already, I think that's great. The consumption, you don't want one to have to fill the other, so to speak.
Sure.
Right. So, or double dip, I guess.
And I guess the other kind of piece that we daylighted at the budget committee meeting, it's really hard not to crack, maybe Wes will crack it for us, is what do we do with renters? You know, what do you do with folks who don't maybe have the ability to access those kinds of levers because of how they are billed? Is there any kind of magic tool to support them?
Yeah, we're trying to figure that out at the cap too. There's a way to, because the county has its own discounts that it offers as well, and trying to get that to renters. And the county did try to have an agreement with landlords and have them sign like affidavits, you know, that they would reduce the rent if they were to offer that. None of the landlords took them up on that. Yeah, that's the trickiest one, but that one would probably have the most impact, I think.
The one thing that I would say is that, you know, there's a shifting of cost from one customer to the other. So the more we provide an incentive, safe, like, for example, that safe rate family units. Unit. So, you know, we discount multifamily in many cases, even though not necessarily the consumptive behavior is different, right?
Yeah.
So, and that shifts the cost to single family residents.
Yeah, we're gonna have to thread the needle. It's not gonna be easy. I know that for sure. And I don't want to, you know, my optimistic sense. I don't want to, you know, fool anybody or pull wool over anybody's eyes, right? But I mean, it's gonna take hard work, and but I have every bit of confidence that we're gonna get this right. Oh yeah, last slide. Looking at Q4, October to December, again, continue to share the updates on our committee assignments. Councilor Massey with what's come up with NICWIC, that's going to be important as well, that overlap there, because obviously in our last discussion, we did see that could potentially have an impact on what we're trying to accomplish. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to not only just pay attention to, but it's going to have to be, I think, more than one discussion when it comes to that, and maybe a discussion between, a couple two council liaisons to sit down with NICWIC along with staff to try to make sure that everyone's on the same page communication wise and really hash out, see how this is going to work. Because the last thing I would want is a program that was intended to be paid for by grants, be paid for by ratepayers. I mean, that would be difficult to swallow.
And just as a follow-up there, Counselor, I did talk to Counselor Massey today. I think we would love to do you two as the green space and the affordability lead, and Joseph and I have an internal meeting first, so we can strategize on next steps. We'll be setting that up and report back.
Yeah, absolutely. And the analytic and logic from Councilor Massey, I tell you, I love it.
It's bad at his eyes at you.
Appreciate that. Well,
Flattery gets you every.
I really appreciate.
Are we in the cabinet? Are we in the cabinet meeting?
I know, where's everybody's red hat? Right? Tour Clackamas Service Center. When is that?
It's not scheduled yet, and this is in my court, but Counselor Stavanger has given me the contact details for Celeste, and so I'll be down.
Everything else you got going on.
It was literally the least thing I could do.
Well, thank you. By the way, thank you. Utility actions again, provide direction on the utility billing code updates and utility rates relief strategies to include in budget development based on cost benefit analysis at the November budget committee meeting. That's going to be a big one. And then housing actions again, next step with increasing high density housing capacity, and then the land bank strategy, which Joseph had talked about before. The land bank strategy, I know that I have had some conversations with Councilor Anderson on some ideas. Justin may not be happy with them, but I think there's a possibility that we can make it work. But yeah, so that's we got a lot to look forward to, and we got a heavy lift ahead of us, folks. I'm excited.
It's the fastest goal update we've ever done. 52 minutes.
Are we done?
That's it for our slide.
Last slide.
Are there any, discussion or questions before we hand it over to the Blue Jacket twins to talk about our next item? I think, with affordability, one thing we've tried to do is intersperse this into the full forecaster. I heard you, Councilor, I heard you. So you'll see a lot of, this I think could go quickly because it's kind of a wrap up, and then you're going to see a lot of affordability related discussions in the coming weeks.
As I was going to say, our other goals have kind of closed with big questions for us, and there's no big questions for us
You
today.
answered a ton of big questions at the budget committee meeting, which is great. And I think we're teeing up a lot of big question moments in these coming work sessions. If there's any big questions you have for us, you let us know, but,
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I mean, we're probably going to have a lot of them in this next quarter.
yeah.
That's really where the heavy lift's going to come. But we've also been very specific about what we want to do, right? So I think that helps too. And there's quite a bit of infrastructure already in place in some of these areas, so.
Do we still have a liaison to the community center, Milwaukie Community Center, board or?
Oh, well, yeah,
Please don't say.
well,
Look at me.
I don't know. I can't remember.
I mean, years ago, we appointed Wilda Parks to their board, and she's actually the chair of their
Okay.
board now.
So maybe that's what I'm remembering, that there were some community members who were kind of.
We're supposed to have an appointment on their board, I think. And I guess Wilda's still holding that seat.
Well, because it brings to mind, trying to get out some of this information more widely and maybe how we could use that partnership better. Because I know we do get like the annual update on how things are going, but that's really just kind of high level, program of familiarity and awareness. but it seems like maybe a conversation with them about, could we put information about relief programs? You know, maybe it's already there, and I haven't noticed it. Or maybe they could send something out in their newsletter to get.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, they have a newsletter. They also just have, you know, they have tables of info when people come in there for lunch and stuff. So there's ways to reach people through, there's a couple of, you know, basically social workers on their staff, I think, who haven't been cut. So,
It would be good to increase our level of communication with them though, just especially with what's, you know, we're still trying to figure out Meals on Wheels and those cuts and everything else that's coming
Right.
down,
Yeah.
so.
And it also brings to mind for me there's a school district team that's embedded at the Wichita Center that does outreach with students, and they manage like food basket pickups and things like that at different schools. They were amazing during the conversations with the Clackamas Service Center about getting housing resources out. And they already had a list of, you know, families that they had identified that could definitely need, you know, like, we can sign up families for this other family needs this and this. They already had sort of a case management, you know, pool that we could tap into. So it seems like maybe that would be a good team to connect both of them.
Yeah, I wonder if that would also help in getting more people enrolled in our programs.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of, that's sort of, just in terms of like an outreach strategy that we could beef up.
That would be
I
great.
think that's definitely worth.
I live right by them. I could walk there. I could do it.
Their team's awesome. Really
Yeah, they really are. They do a lot of great things out there.
I will make sure that next week's at our study session, Amy and Michael bring in any collateral we already have about the utility assistance program. Lower your expectations. I don't think it's going to be the most beautiful, but we can have a conversation then maybe about what collateral would we like to have. We can create that and then be bringing that out to Milwaukie Community Center, Wichita Center, school district partners, those kinds of things. So, yeah.
Because I see that as part of our role in, you know, removing barriers for people to have, you know, have less on their plates, to find more successes, but then also getting the word out, you know, that might help boost some of the hard work that staff are already working on. But just in that extra like oomph.
I have a sort of a question that relates to this low enrollment issue. And just for my own edification, for someone to enroll, do they have to go?
They do not. I believe we have a paper application and can work over the phone or at the counter with our utility bill.
Okay. I was just concerned was that there was a
And digital.
barrier there of knowledge or access to technology or whatever.
It's good. Yeah.
But if that's not the case, then
Their language access though may be a
that's
thing.
another point. Yeah.
Okay. No other questions or comments?
I appreciate everyone's help and work on this very much. Council staff, you guys have all been tremendous.
Yeah,
People-
we're half
people
hour
here.
ahead, so you have plenty of time to talk about your next agenda item, which is tenant screening.
All the time in the world. I'll pass these out to each of you. I've sent a digital copy to Scott as well. I put together this one pager after some conversations with Rick Gamba. This session, he introduced a bill, House Bill 3974, that would limit screening fees across the state of Oregon. Another proposal earlier in session to just remove all screening, not allow any screening fees. So this $20 was more of this compromise proposal to be introduced later in the session. Part of what inspired him to do this that I keep up here is really good. Keep it up on, yeah.
What's the bill number?
3974. The city of Eugene
Oh,
City of Eugene was the first city in the state of Oregon to limit screening fees. They set their limit at $10 as a part of their, it's like a collection of tenant protection policies that they passed. And I think this was one of the more controversials because they got challenged up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court upheld that they are able to set these screening fees. One of the reasons why State Supreme Court, yep. A few other states have similar proposals. What they do is they require that landlords accept a portable tenant screening report. So basically, I could go to a third-party vendor. I could say, Zillow, will you screen me? And for the next 30 days, because it's dependent on your credit score, I have a portable screening report that I can take to anyone and say, I've screened myself. I'm a reputable person. So a few other states require landlords to accept that. On the flip side, as all of these screening fees and caps have been put in place, a lot of developers and managers of multifamily housing have been really upset with these proposals. And a big reason I included in this table here is the actual cost of doing a screening fee is higher than what the caps are. So in Eugene, the $10 cap is about half of what the lowest estimate is for what it would cost to do a screening report. And this table has all of the different components that might go into a screening report. I don't know why, Robert, your home state of Tennessee, it charges $65 for a criminal record search there, which is far outside any other. So I don't know why anyone would screen for a criminal records report there. But if you do all of these things, it ends up costing a lot.
Guilt by association.
I will never screen Robert's criminal record after this. But the big thing is, you could have a screening cost that is far outside the cap. So it's an interesting policy question. The challenge that Gamba and proponents are trying to solve is if you're applying to a lot of different rentals, it is a big barrier to have to pay $50 at every rental that you're doing. And it makes it really hard to find a place to live. Multifamily Northwest would come back and say, most renters only apply to one spot, 98% of renters, according to one of their sources they use. The numbers are a little bit up in the air, but even assuming that people only are applying to just one, I think there's a real barrier to apply to more because it's so expensive to apply in the first place. It discourages applications and it makes it hard.
So is this the trade association who said that?
Yep, so this is the trade association. I met with the trade association as I was thinking about doing a screening fee here. I thought it would be helpful to meet with them, even if they dislike the proposal, just to bounce ideas off of them to see what something more palatable would be, which is kind of how I got to what 3 strategies we could adopt. The first is, as a city, if we could work with Multifamily Northwest and maybe just go out on our own to identify 1 to 3 city-approved portable tenant screening reports, we could create like a clear defined pathway. If you want these portable reports, here's where you can go, and require landlords accept those screening reports. Now, some landlords,
Are there vendors who are doing that now?
there are a few vendors. The 3 that I found are, Robert's really read the one picture quick. TransUnion Smart Move, My Screening Report, and Zillow all offer some sort of feature there. So I think you can require either landlords accept a portable screening report, or if they are not willing to accept a portable screening report, they have their own report that they want to run, limit them to $10. So they still have the flexibility to say, a portable screening report is not something that I want, but if they do that, they cannot charge so much that is a cost burden on people. Or
What do
they could allow,
people pay for these portable screening reports?
those ones are around $20 to $50, depending on how many inclusions you have there too. So I think the reality is the challenge of a $10 screening fee cap or a $20 screening fee cap is these services are expensive, and they're more expensive than the $10 cap would allow. But what's kind of the like inefficiency in the system is you're running one report, and if you have to go to multiple places to run the same report on you, there's a lot of inefficiency done there. So if we require that type of efficiency, if we say the tenant can on their own get this screening report and submit it to the landlord, that creates efficiencies that an individual tenant could go towards. And we also still allow the flexibility. If people do not want to accept those tenant self-screening reports, they can cap the fee at $10.
So what does the third-party screening report contain? Is it a score or is it?
Yeah.
Is it a yes, no, maybe?
It's the same screening report as you would get normally. So what this does is it's a summary of your criminal background, it's a summary of your credit score, and a summary of, I think there are a few other components. It also includes references back to past housing, so they'll call through your references as well. But I think this is why it's important that the city, as opposed to saying like some states, you're required to accept a tenant screening report, by identifying 1 to 3 vendors, we kind of create, there are a bunch of different portable reports that you can do. And I think if we found reports that multifamily providers would actually use or find trustworthy, I think that that's a more reasonable solution. Because you could find there was a really cheap one I found online, $20 that just does a criminal background check and a credit score. But you can see here, the types of screens that some people do are much more expensive than just that. And so I think working with Multifamily Northwest to say, listen, we're going to require this of you, but at least tell us what type of portable screening report would be most amenable to you. We could identify 1 to 3 options. And then my thought is, in the same way that we require home sellers to list in their home sales their energy score, we could have some type of requirement on landlords who post their rental units on the market to include just description of what their screening fee process is. If we add this layer of complexity, I think it's important for a landlord to advertise, you can self-screen for this, and here's the self-screening tool that we allow. So that was the thought there. I think here is the big caveat, and here's why maybe I say put a pin in all of this. We're going to be talking in mid-October about our middle housing responses. We're also going to be talking about our increasing capacity for high density housing and what have you. And I think after the middle housing town hall, it's irresponsible to just look at increasing the high density capacity without thinking about like, what are all those mitigation things? And we heard a lot about mitigation for middle housing, but there are all sorts of other housing types that are coming on the market, and rental housing is something that we'll see more in Milwaukee. And so I think this might be a separate component of that. So maybe the ask after all of this is we take something like this, we fed it to staff while we talk about middle housing remedies and talk more broadly about how we can accommodate growth and make sure that growth is not a burden on residents. This is some strategy that we also include. But I'll pause. Questions on components of this, or even does this approach seem reasonable to the four of you?
Well, I got a comment. I kind of like this idea of the third-party screening because it sort of answers what the landlords want. They're using these as a risk reduction strategy because they don't want to be in a situation where they have to evict someone.
Yeah.
So they want to know who they're going to rent the place to, and they want to say this person is a low risk to me. But I like the idea of you pay it once and it can be used multiple times. So I do like that. I would just caution that even if this becomes part of the code, I would say don't put these 3 in the code. They're just some, we just review this on an annual basis, or every 2-year basis or whatever, and you identify a minimum of 3, a maximum of 5 or whatever. But you don't want to get, these companies, mucking up the code because you're just going to code that would just change. Your code will be out of date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did your discussions with Multifamily Northwest, did they have any experience using any of these? And did they express any preferences or anything like that?
They didn't. So I think that's kind of what I've identified as our next step. If this is something that we would be interested in, I think the direction to staff, or I could go off and do it, is communicate with Multifamily Northwest to identify what those 1 to 3 or however many options we provide are based on what actual landlords find amenable in Oregon, and include those. And I think the other challenge, as I was looking independently, it can be difficult to navigate where you go for an independent screening. And so I think that's also why it's important to have the communication reporting requirement. You need to see on the application to rent where you can self-screen and what that process looks like. So all that to say, multifamily has opinions about this. I don't know their specific opinions, but they did, afterwards they followed up with like, here's an example, report back from a screening company that we have. Here are some companies that we use, but the self-screening, I don't know.
I'm gonna try to resist to get too much in the details, but I am concerned about unintended consequences, and that is, what do you do if a landlord doesn't comply?
Yeah. This is,
And what are the results when you find somebody who doesn't comply? Because we've already admitted to ourselves that we're really not complying very well with the energy score.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep. What Eugene does for theirs is you can submit a written complaint to the city and they'll basically adjudicate that. I think they have some type of fee that they levy on the rental provider if they're not compliant. And so we go through our code enforcement process. And I think all of this, we've talked a lot about code enforcement and a desire to see more support for our code enforcement department. I think this falls.
I just want to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's also my bold take about the enforcement for the energy score and this rental provision is, I think it's challenging to have staff that are dedicated to proactively looking at all these listings. I think it's more physically feasible of a city of our size to have a report back opportunity where if someone is out of compliance, they can bring it to us. I think that's maybe a better use of RFT.
So it would have to be somebody would have to complain to the city then. You
Yeah.
wouldn't know otherwise.
Yeah. So one of two things would happen. Someone says, I was charged a screening fee of over $10 for a non-third party screening report, or I was looking to apply to this rental unit and they didn't include the fee, or they didn't include information about how I could do screening. Can you?
Are you proposing that they also have the option of a screening fee in lieu of the third party?
I was saying, yeah, so if you would like to, I think that I could imagine a world in which some landlords do not like the approved vendors that we have. And so I think to continue to allow flexibility, they can have their own separate, they can choose to opt out of our 1 to 3 vendors. But if they don't allow for a third party screening, that screening that they charge is capped at $10. So we are controlling then the price of what the screens are.
Yeah, I see your rationale. I'm just thinking simplicity, Yeah, use a third party screening option.
Yeah.
There's.
Well, I think it's important to, I guess, yeah, I think conceptually I like it. I do think that there's a lot of things unclear to me in terms of, who these third party screening options, easily, I guess if they're TransUnion and Zillow, they're probably usually easily findable. But, I think, sort of what they do and what they do for what amount of a fee and how that compares with the fees that landlords are charging is one question. And the landlord's trust in them. I guess the other thing we've got to keep in mind is we've got all variety of landlords. They're not all 7 acres and axle tree. We've got people with a fourplex, or, we've got people with small things who are not professional, who are not big operations. So I think I do see kind of a potential code enforcement, heavy lift here. And again, like Councilor Massey said, I am, we aren't enforcing on our home energy score. And so I'm worried about creating another one of those, but I think it's worth exploring more for sure.
Yeah.
Would it be easier just to say that tenants are allowed to provide their own screening, period? Like the landlords can do their screening if they wanted to, because maybe there's a renter that's like, well, I'll just go through the landlord company. Like I'll just let 7 acres do my screening, right? Because, it might be easier for them, or they don't want to have to put in all that info, whatever they might be. But just saying like, hey, you also have an option where the renter can bring their own screening. And
Well, I
it's,
think that's kind of where Councilor Massey was going, that if we designate these three companies,
I
whatever.
would say
three
designate those
companies.
three. I would just say like, they just provide their own screening and then each
Well, then
landlord is gonna have. their
Joe
own.
Blow on the corner sets up his screening operation. I mean, how is that?
Well, I mean,
no
you gotta-
landlord's
Joe-
gonna be real.
It's a lot harder to set up, you know, you can't just be Joe Blow and set up people's background screenings. It doesn't work that way. You're talking about people's date of birth, social security, all that information. It's not as simple as just somebody putting up a cart on the corner and saying, hey, I'll do a screening for you. It doesn't work that way.
Well, but I mean,
What I'm saying is,
if nobody's verified how they do their screenings, then why would a landlord, how can we expect a landlord to take?
but if you're doing a background check, how is that unverified?
May I make a suggestion? If the code actually outlines a capped screening fee or that third-party screening options must be available at the time of application. So that way, the landlord is responsible for determining which of the third-party screening tools they will accept. And then the applicant uses those tools to provide their own background. Is that acceptable?
All right, I think that's fine.
I think that's nice. It shifts the burden off. the city.
Yeah.
And it removes the likelihood of us identifying any businesses in our code, which I agree is not a good practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a potential downside? I like the idea, but is there a downside that, you know, the landlord can say, I like TransUnion, then the other person, he goes to the next apartment and says, well, I like my screening. So then you have a double payment and you sort of kind of, it's what we're trying to do.
That is possible, but I don't know how you would attain the uniformness of that screening tool without the city being in the role of dictating or providing that third-party resource. And then that begs another question that I have. If part of this process, it seems like this is piece of a larger package that would be appropriate for us to maybe ask city staff to consider in addition to this particular strategy. Things like a rental registration. The city of Gresham has a rental registration, and that fund pays for the city capacity to be able to administer some of these code enforcement type like duties. And I think it's minimal. And perhaps it could actually be, you know, something that we, you know, talk with landlords about. And I'm wondering if the proposed code change would just be across the board, regardless of the size of the landlord, how many properties they manage. I'm also curious about the physical location of the owner. So if it's a large corporation and they have properties across the whole country, they're headquartered in, say, Florida, but their property is located here, does the code affect that particular property, or they're exempt because their headquarters don't exist in Milwaukie?
Yeah.
And you don't have to answer now. I'm wondering if like these are things that come up in like a vetting conversation.
Yeah. Counselor, could you just restate again I want to make sure I get my
Maybe. Not sure. I'm interested to look at Gresham's model
For rental registration.
rental registration.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have rental registration.
How much?
We have it through our business registration.
For our business
And we are working on a business registration code update, and as part of that, I would like to look at some clearer differentiation, because right now it's just the same.
business.
It's just the business, yeah.
So like I pay a business registration fee, but if I were a landlord, you know, and I knew that not only were there protections for my tenants, but there were also thoughtful protections and maybe even accommodations for me as a landlord as part of this program that I'd be happy to pay an additional fee for a rental registry.
And we might be able to gather some slightly different information than we do on the business
Yeah.
registration application.
And then I'm interested in the implementation of it and how that applies to the size of property ownership, the number of property properties owned, I guess. And then the location of the corporate office for larger landlords.
And just going back to what you said, you were like, when you said, can I offer kind of another way of thinking about this? It was that the landlord would be required to provide.
At the point of application.
Okay.
So someone goes to the main office.
Yeah.
And you get an application fee, and then you say, yeah, well, you have to do a background check. And then I think this would come with more clear guidelines from the city about how we interact with rental properties in general, right? And we've been kind of, hands off with that regard. But it seems like we're interested in being more hands-on. So they would say, here in Milwaukie, we're required to give you this piece of paper. And then on that, and we are also required to tell you that third-party screening options are available for your background check. These are the ones that we recommend.
I would just add that there's a possibility that, there could be either a trade association or a renters advocacy group that has some sort of standard for these third-party screening options. And if they meet some recognized standard, then that makes it easy to choose people, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that's what, Community Alliance of Tenants is one of the big ones. So I think that would be a great one for the council president to chat with while he's chatting with Multifamily Northwest.
Yes. There would be a yin and yang.
There would be a definite
conversation
there.
And I think that might be part of this larger conversation of what is the suite of strategies that we want to build out here. Because there are cities who contract with Community Alliance of Tenants. There are counties that contract with them to provide tenant support and resource in their jurisdiction. And it might be something that we're interested in looking into. Part of a rental registration fee could pay for that.
Those are good ideas. I think, Robert, you raised a point. You want to have unanimity across the city for what you accept with third-party screening. It can be hard if you a landlord do go. Flip side is landlords are then doing the hard work of identifying that. Perhaps it's like a staff resource. We could say, as a city, we might recommend these 3 companies. Landlords, you say what you approve, but I think even the action of us doing some of the early lift of identifying a few companies in our recommendations or guidance for landlords as we set these rules could create some standardization. I think that what I'm hearing, though, is interesting idea. Let's talk about this more. Let's continue to engage with partners. When we talk about managing growth, a component of that conversation might also include how we support tenants and make sure that they're protected as we see those options around the city. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I think even if we didn't have another new apartment building, we would this is still something worth pursuing.
I agree.
I don't see it as tied to growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Council President, can I just clarify? So the idea of requiring landlords to provide third-party screening options, that has not been tested by the courts in Oregon, right? That has, you're saying that happened in other states, but the Eugene case was specifically about the cap. There's not been any litigation yet around a requirement to provide.
Not that I know of, as well as, yeah.
Okay.
Do you know if Eugene is stuck to their guns with the $10 cap
They
despite
have it
the?
still, yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. And do you know how they enforce?
Aside from this, they have a report back. So if you find someone out of compliance, someone's charging you more than $10, you can go right to the city. And they prescribe in their code kind of like a remedy process. But they're like, if you identify this, you should first talk to your landlord. If your landlord doesn't fix it, write to the city and provide these documents. So they have a process, but it's not the city proactively looking at, are you charging $10 or not?
Are there staff actions you'd like us to take? Councilor Stavengard, I heard your request that we explore rental registration and steps to be taken there. And I think that can be folded into our current look at the business registration code update. But are there other concrete steps you would like to direct staff to do?
I don't think I'm seeing other concrete steps. I think that
There's more.
registration and a larger conversation that we have about protecting renters is something that we're interested in. Take that 30,000 foot guidance as you will.
I love it. We can get some of that programmed into the affordability.
Pretty low
action.
altitude. Yeah,
I'm noticing that Justin's up and pacing, and I don't know if this is related to the topic of conversation.
What's that?
Yeah, I'm guessing not. And
I have some thoughts on it.
I'm sure you do. I noticed that you were standing up and then you.
Oh, that's because my back.
Okay.
but-
And then I was also curious where you got this snappy letterhead.
Snappy letterhead Canva. Oh, that little bit. I copied the last one page that I said I've got one format. Copy paste.
It's definitely the Will color palette now.
It was the same. Yeah. Yeah. I'll admit that was the Clarion color palette before.
Oh,
That one page.
geez.
I've only
Offended
got
by your handouts.
so much
do.
Canva.
Sound type.
Par for the course.
Me too. Can.
Done, done, done.
We're just gonna call it city. Bad word.
I think that's together. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's it's definitely something to explore. I guess I do wonder if it, a complaint-driven process. It'd be interesting to hear what Eugene's experience has been with that. I can see people like being not willing to complain. They're just like, I'm gonna go on to the next apartment building
If you're
or,
looking for a place to live, this is not gonna be real high.
It's not.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's also enforcement aside. I think that if you're a rental company, you do not want to violate the law, and I think that hopefully this alone incentivizes good behavior.
Something else just came to mind for me. Well, if we were able to get to a point where there are third-party screening options that landlords in the city would be open to. And I don't know, I mean, I'm not even sure if we could get to that point. Then I wonder if it could be almost like, how if you're shopping for a car, you kind of want to get those pings like all close together. I wonder if one of those screening reports could be, it's good for 30 days, as many, applications as you want to put in. I don't know the mechanics of the third-party options, but it seems like some education around that for council would be helpful. And if we go that path, then it seems like education for the landlords and the tenants would be important.
You're saying to make the reports good for 30 days?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of where he started, yeah.
Most companies do like, your report is at least valid for 30 days.
Okay.
Until they have to run your credit score again.
Yeah, that's usually. Yeah, I do appreciate you bringing up the enforcement part, because I don't want it to be like the energy code. That's ridiculous.
Okay, we're 30 minutes early.
Okay, we are 30 minutes early. Do people have council reports they want to go ahead and do now?
30 minutes.
You want the, I will say, well, I have one thing I sent everybody, and it's in our packet for the regular session, is an invitation from Johnson Creek Watershed Council to tour the work they're doing in the mouth of the creek that we had the presentation on. I didn't know if I want to do that. I didn't know if other people wanted to do that or not. So I wanted to kind of get a head count of who's interested in that, because we'll have to notice it as a meeting if more than two of us do it. And they were suggesting mid to late September. So we don't have a specific date at this point, but I mean, how many people are interested in doing that?
What is it? Mid to late September.
Going down into the mouth of Johnson Creek to look at what they're doing with the logs and the rocks and the stuff that they're doing in the mouth of Johnson Creek.
Kind of cool. They've got diver equipment.
You can see a fair amount from Klein Point looking down, but I think they would take us down through the Moda parking lot and down to the, is my sense, to actually walk us down along the side of the creek. So
If I can swing it, yeah, I'll do it.
What day will it be?
there's no day.
Oh,
It's just, are you interested in
Why,
the
like, Adam asked?
mid to
Or
late
Lisa.
September? Mid to late September. If you're generally interested, then I'll put you on a list and we'll find a
I'm
day.
generally interested.
Okay,
Me as well.
Me too.
you're gonna take a pass on?
I'm happy to get the report.
Okay, great. Well,
I will send me a postcard.
You're the one counselor who's been really long.
You should be missing right. Shit.
I will follow up with a doodle or some kind of poll to get, I'll tell them that we have 4 and we'll try to get to a date and then I'll let Scott know so he can notice it as a council. Okay. Other things people have? Council report type
I'll give you a
thing?
council report. We actually, the park met August 20th, and we had a really good meeting. So we kind of, through trial and error, agreed on the location and sort of the date and time. It'll be the third Wednesday, yes, of each month. And so we brought all the members up to date on where we were with the negotiations with the secret. You know, just because we did that in public forum here, you know, a couple weeks ago, I don't want to do that with them. You know, especially since we had a lot of new members. It took a while to go through that. We adopted the bylaws, new bylaws, and basically gauged interest in the various officer positions. So we'll have the election on the officers in the September meeting. But it was a nice tight meeting and thought it went pretty well.
And the new members are feeling like they're-
The first meeting was a little bit, we just had kind of much going on, transition and that kind of thing. So I felt like we needed to get on a more straight and narrow meeting. So we prepared for that meeting.
Yeah.
And Adam executed, so I appreciate his efforts. Yeah.
While we're on parks, I might just chime in. This was the mayor's suggestion to let you all know about this, and we can put it on an email too. But this Sunday in City Hall from 11 to 2 is the next workshop as part of the Metro Community Choice Grants Program. I admitted to the mayor that I still find it a little unclear exactly how that process works, and I find the Metro information a teeny bit opaque, but I think the people who attended the first round of workshops found them really engaging, and I think this will be another interesting one, so.
It was really good turnout.
Yeah.
Well, the first round was sort of gathering all the ideas and so it was just like, what are your ideas? Where do you want? And so you could throw anything in the hat. And now the hat is full and it's sort of like sorting through them. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it is. But Adam Moore had sent an email that kind of outlined the process. And I don't think the whole council got it, so we need to, we'll get it out to the whole council so that everybody sees that. Yeah.
I have 2 transportation related reports. It was a busy Labor Day weekend, but the Oregon House has passed the transportation package. I think the big change from the package as presented when we talked about it is that they're sunsetting the payroll tax in January 1st, 2028. And so that will be a big discussion for the legislature. TriMet still, I was in a meeting with TriMet where they were saying, even with this 0.1% increase, you would have to cut back at TriMet 2/3 of the service cuts that they proposed would still have to go into effect. So they proposed some pretty sweeping service cuts, 2/3 of those still have to happen. It's about like $140 million, the gap that they would have after this 0.1% increase happens. So they're then going to scale back that 0.1% increase. So challenging there. Flip side that I did find quite maybe positive. If you make about $40,000, your 0.1% payroll tax increase would calculate out to about $4 over the course of a year, which is about 2 TriMet rides. So I think the call to action is if you go on TriMet twice, sometime in the next month or in the next year, you're contributing what would be a payroll tax increase. I think that was a helpful way to think about it. So
This should get factored into the state income tax rates automatically.
goes
It's not like,
separate.
it's not
Comes
like,
off your paycheck.
Yeah.
It's a payroll tax.
yeah. But I mean, it's not like the metro tax.
Not like
Just tax.
SHS, no. SHS is income. This is payroll, which is slightly different.
You have to file separate thing for the metro one, the payroll, which is deducted.
That's transportation updates. The second piece is to the TSPAC and Planning Commission. Projects are coming to City Council that I think we're talking about on the 16th. There were some amendments in the TSPAC. There were some further amendments in the Planning Commission. I think all of that is really good work. Excited to talk about that. I think the reason why I put a marker down is some of the incoming funds from the transportation package might impact what those numbers look like. In the TSP process, we budgeted for over the next 20 years having $27.5 million. And the increase annually is about $600,000 the city of Milwaukie. And so over the course of 20 years, it was about $9 million extra funds that we would have to spend.
On top of 27 million.
On top of 27. That doesn't assume like that $9 million might, a portion of it go to maintenance and operations and all sorts of other things, but it does, I would imagine that some amount of that $9 million get eaten up into the project list and give us more potential there. And I know that both the TSPAC and Planning Commission amendments are kind of right at the $27.5 million line. So some things to be thinking about there. We'll talk about this more when we talk about the TSP. But for all the TSP members who are listening, kudos for the work that you all have put in on this. I think the project list is, that alone is a labor of love. And then all the work you did after that was a lot.
So the House has adopted the transportation bill?
Yep, now it's just off to the Senate.
And the Senate was supposed to be meeting this week, but now it sounds like it's going to be put off a
They
couple.
include paper money.
They're having trouble getting it. It's going to be put off till mid-September. The TSP that's coming is the project list, but is the whole TSP package coming or just the project?
Just the project list. I think this is our last, I know for the TSPAC, this was our last meeting until we had the full finalized TSP. So I think this is our last check-in before a full thing.
A full track.
Okay. Great. Great. Others? Other council reports?
2 things, but I'll let counselors go through.
Seeing any?
Okay, well, the first one, this is kind of tucked into my last citywide wrap-up. We, in conjunction with Rotary, are sponsoring a table at their Boots and Crystal event this year. So we've got a table and we can fill it with staff and council members. So that's October 17th
6 PM at Gray Gables Estates. I have not been to one. Adam, have you been to?
I actually went last year.
Did you wear boots and crystal?
I do not own boots. But I did.
Highly encouraged.
But I did go, and it was a lot of fun, and everybody else looked great. I'm probably gonna have to do this
All
too.
go to B-side.
Bad, but I did.
Decked out in our boots and our crystal.
Have you got boots in there?
Oh, I have boots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So October 17th, 6 PM, if you can let me know if you are interested, we gotta fill up our, I think it's 8-person table. And then, did you want to talk about the food policies now?
Sure, why not?
And Scott, I might ask you to join in this then, if you don't mind.
Could have given us a bigger break, but yeah.
I think, as I understand it, this is going to be fast.
Don't cut into my notes big time, Mayor.
Okay.
I,
So I sent you guys early in August a sample of the policy that Lake Oswego had to allow them to have council meals, have meals at meetings, at their committees, and et cetera, et cetera. There's been some chatter that the whole meal conundrum created by Oregon Government Ethics Committee has even cast doubt on the Clackamas City's dinner.
Wow.
Or on the city's ability to pay for people to attend this out of our budget, to attend the Clackamas dinner. So I just thought, I've seen now through the mayor's email list, a lot of cities have done ordinances, have done policies or ordinances to address that, food is not compensation. And I'm like, they've all done it. Let's just do it and get it over with, and why reinvent the wheel? So, but Emma told me that Scott thinks we may not need to do anything, that we may be covered.
Well, my observation is in the last 6 years, the city has spent time talking about this. Some might remember the 2019-2020 council compensation discussion that led to a citizen jury, that led to some recommendations. I was just reviewing that language to prepare for this. It's pretty vague, but there was a specific conversation that your predecessors, Mayor Beatty, you were on council at the time, specifically called out including meals in council compensation. So it is fairly broad, and perhaps considering a new policy in light of the ruling this year might be more specific about it. But my general observation has been that we have, as a community, had this conversation in recent years, and there was some code change language that was adopted in a resolution specifically calling out meals. So I feel like council, just in my non-legal perspective, we have talked about it. If council wanted to be more articulate about it. Another thing that I think came out of that discussion was, every 2 years, council reviews a budget that includes funding revenue dedicated towards this group spending money on food. So every 2 years, council, by adopting the budget, is essentially reviewing that idea and getting feedback from a budget committee that includes citizen members too. So we've been adopting that policy sort of indirectly.
Does the budget call out food? It does?
There's a line that says, under the city council, there's a food and education and, there's a line.
It's not just about food when you're at an outside event, it's just generally food. Okay.
It's again fairly vague language, but I do know that I presented that budget at least 3 times, and I always mention you spend money on food.
Yeah.
So, I feel like we're covered. I feel like I've seen the chatter and the policies flying around on the reporter that serves too.
Yeah.
So there is, we don't have to reinvent a wheel necessarily, and I would, again, not speak for a city attorney or any legal counsel that might come. And I know that we have not thoroughly looked at any of these policies flying around, but
the other piece, so Scott's right, there's been code action taken related to council compensation. That's codified. Additionally, we have an administrative policy that's been adopted and was most recently updated in 2024 and vetted with legal review that really clarifies its meals and taxable fringe benefits. And so it clarifies, meals for employees and other compensated officials provided by the city are not taxable, and you guys are considered compensated officials, but it also talks about meals for uncompensated officials and volunteers, which would cover our
boards and committees, and it talks about, it defines what de minimis means, and so it's keeping that under $600 a year. So again, I think we're pretty papered over in terms of policy coverage here. So I think your staff recommendation is probably that we're okay and don't need to take action.
We don't need to do anything. So if we wanted to go back to having pizza, we could. I'm not saying we do, but we could. If we want to go to Clackamas City's dinner, the city can pay for that. That's not a problem. Okay.
When you go to LLC, you use, city funding, you
Yeah.
provided meals for that.
Okay. And things like our leadership academy and when the committees that we feed, there's
I
no
feel that's
issue.
covered by our, both the de minimis and frequency provisions in our adopted administrative policy about food.
Okay.
So we think we're fine. We agree with you,
Are we
Mary.
hearing any dissents from our?
Well, the only caveat to all of that is that those were answers to questions before this particular question was posed by the OGEC. So none of our language or any of that suite of actions that we've taken is not as direct as some of the policies that we've all seen pass in all the cities, right? Would that sustain, if the OGEC came after us, we'd have to figure that out. If council wanted us to be more direct and actually adopt something that, there's model provisions out there, again, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We could certainly do that. In my history here, and I'm quite certain city attorneys for decades in the state, when staff wants to provide a meal for a commission, they don't come by the city attorney's office and ask me to sign off on it. Right? So this is all kind of new, and as everybody knows, it kind of upset the apple cart, right? I'm also curious whether that opinion might get changed legislatively at some point at the state level. Who knows what's going to happen? We can answer the question more specifically.
I can't imagine.
Through action, but
I can't imagine OGEC coming to sue us, frankly. That seems to be a very low risk proposition.
Well,
Are there other people who could?
I don't know that it's a lawsuit type thing. This is the Ethics Commission, right? So while we do have budget documents that have line items for food, that's the city paying for the food. That's not the elected official accepting food, which is where the ethics violation comes in, right?
I don't think that the current direction, is in conflict with what, recent guidance. But I'm kind of in favor of just sharpening the spear a little bit. Because if the ethics committee wants to look at these things, they just want, they're just going to be looking at your documentation and your code that mentions the ethics committee rules. So I just say scratch that itch and let's move on.
So you're saying, let's do let's copy
I don't think it's a heavy lift to change. And, give them what they want and put their name in it.
That's the entire reason why I stepped in. Our pencil's not as sharp as it could be. It doesn't mean it doesn't write. It just means it's not as sharp as it could be.
Yeah, if there's consensus direction, we can get that on a forecaster and we won't reinvent the wheel. We'll pick up what one of our sister cities has done and move that forward.
I know the legislature is considering like an ODEC fix bill for this and some other rulings recently. And so whatever we write, it also doesn't hamstring us if this is pulled back.
And I think when this initially came out, Scott and Emma and I put our heads together and we went through all of the things somewhat in a variety of conversations that Scott went through. And we also said that, wow, when an opinion like that comes out, there's always a clarification or there's always something that happens because that was a big foot that dropped. And so far, we've had some cities have reacted to it. I think we kind of took the tack that we had these other recent considerations of our policies that we were probably okay, and let's let it shake out a little bit.
Do I have at least 3 who want to sharpen the pencil?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
look at that. Scheduled.
And for CCA, just going around, organizers are checking, and it does sound like the next scheduled one is Gladstone in October. And they got some folks around the county that they're going to make it go a bit. So
Okay.
keep an eye out for an invitation. But
They haven't done one in years and years, so.
Malala has tried
Wait,
at least twice now.
They wanted the golf course?
Barbecue. Last time didn't have a golf course. You're thinking of Happy Valley or something.
No, they got that weird golf course.
The children's, the Campbell Children's Course.
Oh,
Didn't we have one
Down by the river?
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't go to that one. Okay, I guess so.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Go there.
Oh, okay. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, let's be thankful we don't have a Washington County water rate.
Okay. So with that, we will adjourn the work session and reconvene at 6:30. If you got a little extra time, run to McDonald's.
So close.
Thank you.